This afternoon, District Attorney Jason Williams visited the New Orleans Police Evidence Room today.
Now, this visit comes on the heels of reports of rats eating marijuana that's meant to be used as evidence. Williams just wrapped up the visit within the last hour. David Jones is live at the DA's office.
Hey, Orleans District Attorney Jason Williams just finished up speaking to media here moments ago after he saw firsthand the conditions inside of NOPD's evidence room. He called those conditions deplorable. He described having an open dialogue with NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick and the Chief Judge at Criminal District Court. He assured the public of the accuracy of convictions already obtained and said provisions are necessary to safeguard prosecutions moving forward. But Williams did say he is confident in the security of evidence for future prosecutions. The walkthrough comes at a time of heightened scrutiny of NOPD facilities, particularly the headquarters and at the evidence facility. Chief Ann Kirkpatrick drew notice of the conditions, telling City Council last week they had a vermin infestation and that rats were eating marijuana, which had been stored as evidence in cases. Kirkpatrick was asking for more funds to repair and upgrade existing NOPD facilities, including the evidence room. That's among other issues at NOPD facilities, including faulty air conditioning and broken elevators. Orleans District Attorney Jason Williams saying his concern was protecting the integrity of evidence that has yet to be used in pending prosecutions.
But as the DA, I cannot understate the critical importance of physical evidence in the cases that we prosecute. Following today's visit, we can confidently stand by the accuracy of the convictions that we have already obtained in the past 3 years, and we know that provisions are necessary to safeguard the integrity of the prosecutions moving forward.
This was a joint walkthrough with Williams, Kirkpatrick, and their respective teams. Williams said rats are the least of the concerns in terms of issues in the evidence room. And Williams calling this afternoon on everyone involved in the criminal justice system here in New Orleans to work together to better conditions, particularly for employees who have to work in the evidence room. For now, reporting live at the Orleans District Attorney's office, David Jones, Fox 8, Local First.
Thank you.